if you happen to have a relatively new iPhone sitting in your pocket right now.
Or maybe just resting on the table right next to you.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to look at it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a very real chance that little rectangle of glass and metal is actually, well, a digital winning lottery ticket.
Right, and it could be worth up to $95 in literal found money, which is just wild to think about.
It really is.
Mm.
And it's totally practical, too. I mean, we're not talking about some obscure promotional credit that you have to spend in their app store.
Oh, no. This is actual cash, deposited directly into your bank account as a result of a massive legal settlement.
So today we're taking a deep dive into an absolutely colossal payout, specifically Apple's $250 million class action settlement.
Yeah, the one regarding their marketing of Apple Intelligence and the overhauled version of Siri.
Right. And we've pulled together a huge stack of sources for this deep dive to figure out, how this happened and how you can claim your piece of it.
We're looking at some really in-depth tech and industry reporting from CNET and Tom's Guide, which breaks down the hardware side of things.
Plus, we've got some incredibly practical consumer finance strategies from Steve Rode.
The get-out-of-debt guy.
Yep, the get-out-of-debt guy. And of course, we're pulling directly from the official court filings and the settlement FAQs just to make sure we have the exact legal parameters right.
Because our mission for this deep dive is basically to get you fully prepared. We're going to unpack the underlying mechanics of why Apple is suddenly, writing checks for $250 million.
Exactly. And we'll clarify the strict eligibility rules because this really does come down to highly specific phone models and purchase dates.
And we'll break down the math of how a pro rata payout actually scales up.
Most importantly, though, we want to give you a step-by-step checklist to execute today, so you're totally ready when this claim window opens in the summer of 2026.
Yeah, being proactive is key here.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand why there is a $250 million pot of money just sitting on the table, we have to look at the core of the lawsuit itself.
Right, Perazzi v. Apple, Inc.
Exactly. And the entire case really hinges on this massive gap between what was promised on your television screen and what actually ended up in your hands when you bought the phone.
Yeah, so when Apple rolled out the iPhone 16 lineup, the entire marketing apparatus was essentially built around this whole concept of Apple Intelligence.
They were heavily promoting these incredibly advanced artificial intelligence features.
Right, and specifically a dramatically enhanced Siri. I mean, this was pitched as a fundamental shift in how you interact with your device.
It wasn't just a minor software tweak. It was like the primary reason to upgrade your phone.
Exactly.
The pitch was that Siri was finally going to be a true intelligent agent. It was going to understand context, look at what was physically on your screen, and just anticipate your needs.
But when the phones actually hit the shelves?
Yeah, those tentpole features were either significantly delayed, riddled with bugs, or they just straight up didn't exist.
And that's where the lawsuit comes in. It explicitly claims that Apple saturated the market with deceptive ads.
They basically induced millions of consumers to buy a piece of hardware based on the promise of software that was nowhere to be found when the box was actually opened.
And the frustration from consumers was immediate. I mean, you purchased a premium device at a premium price point.
Right.
And the flagship feature that justified that price point was completely missing in action.
But wait, let's look at this from the industry perspective for a second. Because tech companies delay software all the time.
Oh, constantly. Yeah.
Video games publish vague roadmaps. Software companies push back updates for months just to squash bugs. So why is Apple suddenly getting slapped with a $250 million penalty for doing what feels like, well, an industry standard?
Especially when the hardware itself was fine.
Exactly. The physical hardware, the screen, the cameras, the processor was perfectly fine. Is it really fair to penalize them for a software delay?
Well, Apple makes that exact argument. They vehemently deny any legal wrongdoing here.
Right. They point out that the hardware was revolutionary and functioned perfectly.
And they also highlight that they did launch dozens of AI features shortly after the launch window. They cite things like visual intelligence, live translation, Genmoji.
And their cleanup photo editing tool.
Right. So their official stance is basically that they resolved this matter simply to avoid the distraction of prolonged litigation.
Yeah, so they can just stay focused on delivering products.
Yeah.
It's basically them saying, we did nothing wrong, but here is $250 million to make you stop suing us.
Pretty much. But there has to be a reason they felt so compelled to market features that weren't finished yet. It's really unlike their usual strategy.
It really is.
What's fascinating here is the massive tension behind the scenes regarding how AI is actually processed.
Oh, this is a great point.
Yeah, Apple was genuinely caught off guard by the intense, sudden consumer demand for generative AI. Their primary rivals, like Google and Samsung, were moving incredibly
They
fast.
were integrating AI super deeply into their Android ecosystems,
Right. But those competitors process a massive amount of their AI in the cloud on these giant server farms.
which makes it way faster to develop and deploy.
Exactly. It's much easier to deploy cloud-based AI. But Apple, on the other hand, has built its entire brand identity on privacy.
They want everything processed locally, right there on the phone, so your data never goes to a server.
Precisely. And building an AI model that is small enough and efficient enough to run entirely on a smartphone processor, that is a monumental engineering bottleneck.
It takes significantly more time.
It does, but the marketing department felt immense pressure to show they weren't falling behind in the AI arms race.
Right, so that pressure almost certainly led to them pushing their Apple intelligence narrative way ahead of the actual software development realities.
They needed the narrative out in the world to sell phones, even if the code wasn't fully baked.
Think about it like buying a luxury car. Imagine you walk into a dealership based on this flashy Super Bowl commercial highlighting a revolutionary new hybrid engine.
Okay. Yeah.
You pay top dollar, you get the keys, and when you pop the hood, the hybrid motor is literally missing. There's just a sticky note that says, "Thanks for your purchase. We'll install the hybrid motor over the air in about 2 years."
You would never accept that.
No.
Yeah.
It's not just a delayed feature. The core selling point of the physical item is absent. So the marketing department wrote a check the engineers couldn't cash, and now the legal department is covering the difference.
That's a great way to put it.
So what does this all mean for the person listening to this right now? Let's decode the actual math of this settlement.
Okay, so the structure of this settlement is what is known in the legal world as a non-reversionary common fund.
And that's a critical legal term.
It really is. It means Apple puts the full $250 million into an escrow account, and whatever happens, whether one person claims it or 10 million people claim it, not a single cent of that money reverts back to Apple.
Okay, so the pie is baked and Apple can't take any slices back.
Exactly. But obviously, all $250 million doesn't go straight to consumers.
Right. The first deductions from that pool are the attorney's fees for the lawyers who brought the class action, which is standard.
Yeah, totally standard. And then there are the administrative costs for the company managing the payout process, a firm named Verita.
Got it. So once those fixed costs are cleared, what remains is divided among the eligible consumers using a pro rata distribution model.
Yeah, pro rata.
Let me try to break down pro rata because it sounds like this complicated legal jargon, but it's really just a sliding scale based on participation, right?
That's exactly what it is.
So if the settlement dictates a baseline payment of $25 per eligible device, but millions of people just ignore the emails and don't bother filling out the claim form,
The money that would have gone to them gets redistributed to the people who actually did file.
that is wild.
It is the exact mechanism they use. The settlement outlines a presumptive base payment of $25.
Okay.
However, because of that pro rata structure, that amount can increase up to a maximum cap of $95 per device.
And that depends entirely on claim volume.
Completely. It basically operates on a scale of collective apathy. The more people who just toss the postcard in the recycling bin, the closer proactive individuals get to that $95 ceiling.
It's crazy to think your payout depends on other people being lazy.
Yeah, it really does.
And we should put this into historical context too, because consumer electronics class actions usually pay out pennies. There was another privacy lawsuit involving Siri a few years ago, right?
Yes, there was a case regarding Apple allegedly retaining voice recordings without proper consent.
And how much did that one pay out?
The average payout per device for that settlement ended up being around $8.
$8. You could barely buy a fancy coffee for that.
I know. So the fact that this fund is starting at a $25 floor and could hit nearly $100 is incredibly unusual.
It really speaks to the sheer scale of the iPhone 16 launch and just how aggressively Apple Intelligence was marketed.
Absolutely. And there is another massive detail in the legal filings that listeners really need to understand.
What's that?
This payout is calculated per device, not per person.
Okay, that is a huge distinction.
It is. The eligibility is tied directly to the hardware unit itself. So, if you are an absolute tech enthusiast and you upgraded from an eligible iPhone 15 Pro last year to a brand new iPhone 16 Pro this year.
Wait, you hold the claim for both of those individual devices?
You do.
So if you and a partner are on a shared phone plan, and you both upgraded to eligible models during the qualifying period, you are looking at a combined baseline of $50,
At least.
with the potential to reach nearly $200 total if the pro rata scales up to the maximum.
Exactly. Which brings us to the most important part of this entire deep dive.
The devices themselves. We keep saying eligible devices.
Mhm.
Let's get incredibly specific here because we do not want anyone wasting their time filling out forms if their hardware doesn't even qualify.
Right. So the eligibility list is strictly defined by the hardware required to run Apple Intelligence.
Okay.
We're looking at a pool of roughly 36 to 37 million specific devices, and it includes the entire iPhone 16 lineup.
The entire thing.
Yeah, that means the base iPhone 16, the 16 Plus, the 16 Pro, the 16 Pro Max, and the newly announced iPhone 16.
Okay, so basically, if the number 16 is in the name of your phone, you are good to go.
Exactly. But it also includes some older models, specifically the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
And this is where I guarantee people are going to get frustrated.
Oh, for sure.
Why is the standard base model iPhone 15 left out in the cold here?
Yeah.
I mean, if two people walked into a store on the exact same day in 2023, and one bought a 15 and the other bought a 15 Pro, why does only one of them get a check?
It all comes down to the physical silicon inside the phone. You really have to understand how these AI models actually function.
Okay, break it down for us.
So a large language model, or LLM, which is what powers these generative AI features, is essentially a massive file of probabilities.
Right.
And to generate text or images fast enough to feel like a real-time assistant, that entire massive file has to be held in the phone's active memory, the RAM.
Not the long-term storage.
Exactly, not the long-term storage.
Because pulling it from long-term storage would be way too slow. It would take like seconds to answer a basic question.
It would be a terrible user experience. And the standard iPhone 15 simply lacked the necessary neural processing unit capabilities, and it only had 6 gigabytes of RAM.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, the operating system itself takes up a significant chunk of that memory, leaving virtually no room to load a 3 gigabyte LLM.
Wow.
But the iPhone 15 Pro, however, was built with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So Apple Intelligence physically cannot run on the standard iPhone 15 hardware without crashing the device.
Ah, so because it was literally physically impossible for the base 15 to run the software, Apple never actually marketed Apple Intelligence as a feature for that specific model.
Exactly.
And since this entire lawsuit is about deceptive marketing regarding AI features, if your phone was never promised those features in the first place, you legally aren't part of the damaged class.
That is the legal logic, perfectly summarized. You cannot be compensated for a missing feature that was never promised to you.
Makes total sense. So that defines the hardware. The next hurdle is the timeline of when you actually bought it, right?
Yes. The purchase window is rigid. You must have purchased one of these eligible devices in the United States between June 10th, 2024 and the spring of 2026.
Now, the sources differ slightly on the exact end date, right? Some of the legal notices say March 29, 2025.
Yeah, there is some minor conflicting information in the initial filing. Some documents point to March 29, 2025.
But others go further out.
Right. Consumer advocates like Steve Rode point to early 2026 to encompass later buyers of the newly released iPhone 16.
Okay, so the general rule of thumb is, if you bought an eligible Pro model in the summer of 2024, or literally any 16 model through 2025, you are safely inside the zone.
Yes, you are safe.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the claim window itself isn't actually open yet.
Well, it's not.
But Steve Rode, our get-out-of-debt guy from the sources, highlights the biggest mistake consumers make with these class actions.
It's not missing the final deadline, is it?
No, it's reading the headline today, thinking, oh, I'll deal with that later, and then completely forgetting about it until the window slams shut next year.
Yeah, human nature and procrastination are definitely the biggest obstacles to actually collecting a class action payout. The money really relies on you taking proactive steps.
So Rhodes says this is a strategic move you need to make today. Do not wait for the summer to scramble for your information.
You need to gather your data right now while it's top of mind.
Exactly. Take your phone, open it up, go to Settings, tap General, then tap About. Right there, you will see your serial number.
Write it down. Take a screenshot.
Email it to yourself with the subject line, Apple Settlement.
And that step is particularly vital if you are someone who regularly trades in your devices on a yearly cycle.
Oh, that's a great point. Because if you had an iPhone 15 Pro during the qualifying window, but you already traded it into your wireless carrier to subsidize the cost of the new iPhone 16,
You obviously no longer have the physical device in your hand to check the settings.
which means you have to go hunting. You need to log into your Apple account purchase history online or just dig through your email archives for the original digital receipt from your carrier.
You have to find that specific serial number, because if you bought it during the window, you own the claim, regardless of whether you still own the physical phone.
Wait, really?
Yes, that is a critical point. Ownership of the claim is tied to the purchase event, not current possession.
Wow, okay. So finding those old serial numbers is totally worth the effort, especially if it turns into $95 a pop. Okay, so we've got our serial numbers saved in a secure note. We know we meet the hardware and date eligibility. Let's map out the actual timeline here. When are people actually going to see this money?
Right.
And how do they avoid getting ripped off by scammers in the process?
Okay, so according to the legal filings, preliminary approval for this settlement was granted on May 5, 2026.
Okay.
That approval triggers the next phase, where the settlement administrator, Verida, is legally required to send out official notices via email and postal mail within 45 days.
So listeners should expect to see those official communications arriving around mid-June of 2026.
Yes, and those notices will direct them to a centralized official website to actually input that serial number we just told them to save.
And the official claim website will launch concurrently with those notices, right?
Exactly. Once that portal opens, the clock starts ticking. You will have exactly 90 days from the date of the notice to file your claim online.
Miss that 90-day window, and your portion of the funds gets redistributed to everyone else.
Yep. The pro rata claims another victim.
And when it comes to the actual payout, I was so relieved to see in the sources that we've moved past the dark ages of just waiting for a paper check to arrive in the mail 6 months later.
Oh, yeah. While physical checks will still be an option for those who prefer them, the administrator is utilizing modern digital payout infrastructure now.
Which is so much better.
It is. You will be able to select a direct ACH transfer, which is just a direct automated deposit straight into your checking account.
Or you can opt for payments via platforms like Venmo and Zelle.
Right. It is designed to be as frictionless as possible to encourage high participation.
But, where there is a highly publicized pot of money, there are inevitably scammers trying to intercept it.
Oh, always.
And the sources issue a really important public service announcement regarding this.
It happens with every major tech settlement. A wave of highly sophisticated phishing emails and fake websites will immediately follow the news cycle.
It's so frustrating.
It is imperative to remember this one ironclad rule. A legitimate, court-appointed settlement administrator will never, under any circumstances, ask you to pay a processing fee to claim your funds.
Never.
They will never ask for your bank login credentials, and they do not need your social security number to release a $95 consumer claim.
So if you receive an email that looks official but asks for a small fee to, unlock your Apple settlement.
It is a scam. Delete it immediately.
Okay, so let's project forward. Everything goes smoothly. You file the claim in July. And by the fall of 2026, a random Tuesday rolls around, and you get a notification on your phone that $95 has just been deposited into your Venmo account.
Nice.
It is very easy to just let that money vanish into the ether, right?
Oh, completely.
A couple of overpriced coffees, maybe an impulsive online purchase, and it's just gone without a trace. But Steve Rode offered a really compelling mathematical strategy for this money.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture of personal finance, Rode makes a brilliant point about the psychology of a windfall.
Right, because found money, by its very definition, is unbudgeted.
Exactly. It isn't allocated for your rent. It isn't earmarked for your groceries. Because it feels like a surprise bonus, we tend to treat it frivolously.
It feels like monopoly money, so we spend it like monopoly money.
But Rode argues that this is the absolute perfect opportunity to deploy that money strategically as a financial lever.
I love this part.
Let's say you take that $95 and instead of spending it, you immediately apply it as an extra principal-only payment to a credit card that carries a typical 28% annual percentage rate.
Which is huge. By applying that $95 directly to the principal today, you aren't just paying down the debt.
No, you're doing much more.
You're instantly stopping the compounding interest on that specific chunk of money.
Right. You are saving yourself over $26 in interest that you would have been charged over the next year.
You are essentially guaranteeing yourself a 28% return on your investment, completely tax-free.
It transforms a minor annoyance over a delayed Siri update into a genuinely meaningful financial win.
It is a phenomenal way to reframe the payout. Instead of a free coffee, it is a tool for debt reduction.
It really is.
I love that perspective. It takes this massive, abstract legal battle happening in courtrooms in California and turns it into tangible financial relief for a listener just sitting at home.
Absolutely.
So to completely wrap this all up, Apple is paying out $250 million because they promised massive AI features on the iPhone 16 and 15 Pro that simply weren't ready for prime time.
Largely because they were trying to balance consumer demand with the immense technical challenge of processing AI entirely on device.
Right. The marketing narrative outpaced the engineering reality.
And the legal system is holding them accountable for that gap to protect the consumer.
So if you bought an iPhone 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, or literally any of the iPhone 16 models between June of 2024 and early 2026, you are likely eligible to file a claim.
And remember, the payout is pro rata, meaning it scales based on how many people actually participate.
Ranging from a base of $25 up to a ceiling of $95 per eligible device.
And your strategic move for today is to go into your phone settings, tap General, then tap out, find your serial number, and write it down.
Dig up the serial numbers for any eligible phones you've already traded into.
Do it today, so you are completely ready when the 90-day claim window officially opens in mid-June of 2026.
This raises an important question, though. And this is something I really want you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your day.
Yeah.
We are living in an era where artificial intelligence isn't just a cool bonus feature anymore.
No, it's not.
It is becoming the primary foundational selling point for almost all modern consumer technology.
Right. The entire industry is pivoting their marketing around what their AI can do.
So does this massive $250 million settlement set a terrifying new legal precedent for Silicon Valley?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question for the industry.
Will this finally be the moment that forces these massive tech giants to stop selling us on these vague, coming soon roadmaps?
If the cost of a delayed software update is $250 million in liability, we might see a drastic industry-wide chilling effect on how technology is marketed globally.
Will the threat of $250 million payouts force them to return to a world where they only market the features that are physically functioning in the box on launch day?
Companies may decide the legal risk simply isn't worth the pre-launch hype.
It really makes you wonder how the next big tech keynote is going to sound. So go check your settings right now. Write down that serial number.
Do it.
Because whether the tech industry actually changes its ways or not, you might just be holding a $95 winning lottery ticket right there in your hand.